Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to today's class. Thank you for taking your time out of your schedule and coming at this hour on this evening, alhamdulillah, to learn about worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on Imam Ghazali's works, which we've been going through previously for some of you who would have been in the past, in the center, etc. But this is a new book we're starting, a new area of discussion which is on the actual acts of worship, inshallah ta'ala. As an introduction for today, and we move into the book inshallah sometime during the lesson inshallah. Just talk a little bit about Imam Ghazali again. Some of you know a lot, mashallah, and maybe he's the reason you've come today because you heard a lot about him, and may Allah have mercy on his soul. Imam Ghazali, to summarize, we won't go into detail because there's a lot said about Imam Ghazali. We talk about him for hours. He was a great mind. He was a great thinker. He was a pioneer in many ways. And he also had a personal journey, which is very important to mention, which helped him to reach where he did. And his experiences were something he took seriously, and he shared with us in his book, Deliverance from Error, Munqidh min al-Dalal. It's his autobiography. He writes about his journey, his struggles, himself. And it's quite interesting how he breaks things down, talks about his life. And one of the main aspects of that journey is that he became a great scholar. He was a leader in his time of Islamic jurisprudence, Sharia, fiqh, aqidah, the beliefs, logic. He could out-debate and win in debates many other people. And he became renowned to the extent that he became the head of one of the greatest madrasas or Islamic seminaries in history, the Madrasa al-Nizamiyya, there was a few of them set up by Nizam al-Mulk, a great scholar himself, and actually a colleague of Imam Ghazali, also a business person, a wealthy person who had links to the Seljuk leaders of the time. And he established these universities, you would call them, or Islamic seminaries. And Imam Ghazali became head of one of them. So he had literally thousands of students. People come to him from around the world to learn. They would sit in his company, rahimahullah ta'ala. But what happened was he felt an emptiness in all of that. Although he was famous, he was well respected, people looked up to him, he had status, he had a circle of thousands of students. It can get quite to one's heart, and one can think that they're greater than they really are just because people are around them. So he decided to take a step away. And he literally abandoned everything and left. He fled. He says, I fled this fame, this status, this life I was living. And he went into a type of seclusion. Not out of the way of people, but he went abroad to lands where people didn't know him personally. They'd heard of him though. Everyone had heard of him around the Muslim world, of the great Ghazali. But they didn't know him by face or who he was. So he traveled he did Hajj, he went to Makkah, he did Hajj. The pilgrimage, he went to Jerusalem, and he wrote some of his books. He was writing on his journeys. He's got a book called the Jerusalem Epistle, which is about beliefs. And he wrote all the books. He started writing his Ihya Ulumuddin, which is what we're going to be taking from today, inshallah, which is revival of the religious sciences, which we've talked about before, we mentioned before we commenced into this book. And he spent some time in Damascus as well, alhamdulillah, which is where I actually went to the places where Imam Ghazali stayed. And all of his time he was keeping himself to himself, visiting places, learning, not teaching, not a scholar. He was just a worker sometimes. He'd be a cleaner or something. He'd just be busy writing his books, away from people. This was the life he chose. And in that time, in a sense, he discovered himself. He became more aware of his flaws, and he started to start rectifying himself and become a great person. And this is where it all starts, from the very basic steps. And that's what we, inshallah, will look at today as well. And he had a very beautiful style of writing, a very effective style of writing. Hence his books are celebrated today, Muslims and non-Muslims, right? So he became recognized in philosophy, in jurisprudence, in theology, in logic and rational thought, and by Muslims and non-Muslims. So he's a world-renowned scholar, historically important figure in Islamic history and the history of the world, to be honest. He's a very pivotal figure. And hence he is praised, but he also is critiqued as well, like any human being is. by Muslims and non-Muslims. Some maybe have been unfair in their criticisms, some may have been otherwise in certain areas. But in reality, his greatness outshines any flaws or blemishes or weaknesses he had. And everyone's got weaknesses. We've got more weaknesses than most people, if you look at ourselves. But he left legacy behind in all fields, really. In fiqh, he's got books of fiqh that are studied and people practice and they follow. In Aqidah, his books and beliefs, he's got books that are studied and are printed. Till today, they're reprinted, they're translated. You can buy the translations. We went through one of those booklets, small work, previously, called Qawaid al-Aqaid, the Foundations of Belief, in the last few months previous to this course. And also in the area that we're going to be talking about today, in Tazkiyah, or in Tahdhib al-Nafs, purification of the heart, or Tasawwuf, spirituality, he left a massive legacy behind, and probably his greatest work, or one of his greatest, probably the greatest, was the Ihya al-Din, which was in 40 volumes, or 40 books, 40 sections. Each section is called a book: the book of knowledge, the book of beliefs, the book of secrets of purification, the book of the secrets of the prayer, of fasting, of Hajj, of Zakat. So he talked about all these different acts of worship. He talked about social etiquettes, eating and drinking, table manners, brotherhood, marital rights and responsibilities, and so forth, rights of parents. He talked about a lot of the things that are part of our spiritual journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He talked about the characteristics as well of patience, of shukr, gratitude. He talks about detachment from the world and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with other beautiful characteristics such as ikhlas, sincerity, and fear and hope, like balancing this hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fear, awe of his punishment, etc., and his being distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he wrote a beautiful book, a massive work, which is again translated into many languages. And what we've done now to introduce the course really is I've got my old copy, so you've got a nice new copy. This is ancient, right? This is from this edition was printed in 1996, so that's not good to mention. I got it back then, right? But I'm still 21 though, right? I'm gonna start as well, right? You believe that, right? I'm 21, always 21, never change. It's been reprinted several times, formatted. Same book, translated by Muhtar Holland, who translated many of Imam Ghazali's works. He translated his autobiography as well, called Deliverance from Error. And he translated other books as well. And in this, what he does here is he takes from the books of Ihya al-Ulumuddin, the first section I just mentioned, where he talks about the prayer, about fasting, about alms giving, as he mentioned, he was zakat, sadaqah. And he talks about the spiritual aspect of this. Imam Ghazali talks about it. Imam, or the Shaykh, or the author, translator, he translates that into what our book is today. So we'll go to the 5 pillars of Islam over the next 4 weeks. So we've got 4 weeks, inshallah, today, and then we finish on the last Wednesday, is Wednesday the 3rd of December, I think, because I was checking when it finishes, because I've got to go somewhere afterwards. So I was like, okay, 3rd of December is good. I'm not going to miss the last class. I'm going to miss the last class of something else. Is it? No, it's not 3rd December. It's the 14th or something. 17th. No, 18th. Because on the 18th, on the 19th, I'm traveling somewhere. Yeah. So sorry, yeah, not the 3rd. 3rd is next week. 18th is our last class, right? 18th of. So it's that wouldn't make sense, right? It's 4, 11, and 18, right? There's my maths for you, right? It's 4th next week. Something else happening on the 3rd, which I was checking. On the 11th, and the 18th is our last class, inshallah. So it's a 4 week, 4 sessions. They're independent of each other because we'll cover one topic at a time. So if you've missed the first one or you've missed the second one, don't worry. It's on live streamed on Facebook or YouTube, maybe. I don't know which one they're putting it on. So Assalamu alaikum to everyone at home who is watching on the live stream. So you can catch up on the live stream, just watch the video back, inshallah. We'll send the links out. If you've registered, you'll get a link to the recordings, inshallah. So that brings us to the book. That's the introduction. But there is one thing mentioned at the end. I said Imam Ghazali left legacy behind in every field, in terms of Islamic practices, which we call Sharia or fiqh, in terms of creed or aqidah, beliefs. He has many books actually. And in terms of the spirituality and the purification of the heart. And that really links in, and it's beautiful that he's a kind of all-round scholar, because that links in with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and the angel Jibreel alayhi salam were in Sahih Muslim, the collection of hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with his companions and a man came, and this man was dressed in clean white clothes and he had shiny black hair. It says clean, he was very well kept, very well smart, elegant appearance. And he sat down with the Prophet ﷺ. He walked in, he sat down, people were watching, and they didn't know him. It was like, who is this person? And he sat with the Prophet ﷺ in the tashahhud position, with his knees facing the Prophet ﷺ, and he asked the Prophet ﷺ 4 questions. The first question was, what is Islam? And the Prophet ﷺ replied with the shahada, with establishing the prayer, pay the zakat, to fast the month of Ramadan, and to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. And he said, you've spoken the truth, you've said you're correct. So the companions were a bit surprised. How can he ask the question? He's a stranger. How can he affirm and say the Prophet's correct? That's a bit weird. They found it strange. The second question he then posed was, what is Iman? What was the first question? What is Islam? Just pay attention. What is Iman? The second question was, Wakas?
Islam.
No, second question. Ihsan. No.
Iman.
Iman. Okay. See, you need to pay attention. What is Iman? Ladies, what was the second question? What is Iman? So what is faith? So Islam in practice, what is submission? That's the translation of Islam. Surrendering, submission. What is Iman? Iman is faith, to believe in something. And the Prophet replied with the tenets of faith, that you believe in Allah, the angels, the books, the messengers, the final day, and the decree, the qadr, the good of it and the bad of it. And the Prophet ﷺ, and the person replied back, you've told the truth, correct, sadaqta. Again, something that they weren't expecting to hear. Then the third question was, what is ihsan? What is ihsan? Ihsan means to do well, to perfect, to make beautiful. Hasan is beautiful, husn, right? And ihsan is to make something beautiful, to do it well, to do it in a good way. When something is good, you well done in the book, in Arabic, when I write mock homework in Arabic, you put ahsanta or ahsanti, right? Ahsanta means you've done well done. That's what it means, the translation of well done. It's from ihsan, to do well. So the Prophet ﷺ replied to the question, what is ihsan? He said, ﷺ, that you worship Allah as though you see Him, and if not, then know that if you're not able to, you don't have that, then know that you worship Him as though you know that, you're aware that He sees you, He's watching over you, He's aware of your actions, and He's there, He's present. And then he asked him a fourth question, which was, when is the day of judgment? The Prophet replied, upon questioning, there was no more than one question. And then he said, tell me about his signs. The Prophet gave 2 signs. He said that you will see barefoot, naked, poor shepherds. They are competing in raising tall buildings, building tall buildings. Right? This is a sign we see at the end of the times. And now we have this, right? Shepherds that were once shepherds, because if there isn't making tall buildings, they're millionaires now and billionaires, which they are. And it actually says in another hadith, not this hadith, but it says in another hadith, the Arabs will compete in raising tall buildings. The Prophet himself said this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which we see now, is a phenomenon that's visible to everyone. And we can say, Sadaqta, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger, the Prophet spoke the truth. This is what happened, we see it today. What's the tallest building in the world? Burj Khalifa, you all know that, right? And then he gave another sign, which was that a slave girl, or a slave, Ama is like Abd, slave, right? A female will give birth to her leader, to her mistress, to somebody who rules over her. So ladies will give birth to children, but the children will control the mothers. And some say it's like children control parents, things like this. Some say it refers to, it's metaphorical, meaning that one interpretation actually is that Islam will give birth to the Western technology, and that will rule over Islam in the end. It's like, so that Islam was the mother that gave birth to the. Then in terms of historically, the discoveries and the learning and the sciences that were developed by Muslims, scholars in the Muslim world, have massively benefited the world, right, in terms of optics and screens and light and refraction and mathematics and medicine. Even if you go back in history, you'll find that the Muslims, scholars and scientists and so forth, were pioneers, were way ahead of the other parts of the world, and they took from that and they actually used their works, the Qanun or the Canon of Tib, of medicine, of Ibn Sina, about 20-volume work, was used in Western universities for many, many centuries, up until the 19th, 20th, and 20th century, even in some universities in Europe, right? So this is what is one interpretation. You can leave that and say that things will change at the end of time. There's many other signs of the Day of Judgment and so forth. But going back to the first part of the hadith, or finally finished the hadith, and the man left. This man left. Fantaraqa. He disappeared. He went off. And later on, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked one of the people that was there, Umar, said, Umar, do you know who that man was? Do you know who that person was that came? And he said, no. Allah wa Rasul A'lam. Umar said, Allah and His Messenger know best. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it was Jibreel. It was the angel Jibreel. He came, Atakum yu'allimukum dinakum. He came to teach you your religion. He came to teach you. He asked these questions. He knew the answers. So a lot of things we learn from that hadith. One of them, just to mention briefly, is you ask questions sometimes so others learn. Right? It's a good thing to do sometimes. And there's many other etiquettes and things we learn, but the main thing we want to concentrate on for today is the third question. So Islam, when you study fiqh and Aqidah and the books of how to pray and how to fast rulings, am I doing my zakat properly? When Ramadan comes, we all learn about fasting, what breaks the fast, what doesn't break the fast. That's fiqh, that's the outward. Aqidah we've done. If you're with us before for the past couple of months, or you've been watching online and stuff, following us, then you'll have gone over our beliefs, or the beliefs Imam Ghazali presents of Muslims in general, of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and we do the classes on Aqidah and stuff. But where now the book that Imam Ghazali has is actually about this topic: purification of the heart, rectification of our souls, our manners, disciplining ourselves. Tazkiyah. Qad aflaha man zakkaha. Successful is the one that purifies his ego, his soul. Purifies it from the blemishes we have of greed and anger, envy and hatred, and grandiosity and arrogance, right? These kind of things. And Imam Ghazali talks about these characteristics, or bad characteristics, within the 40 books, and we do whole books on like showing off and how it's a disease of the heart, anger, and how to manage it, and very in-depth, study and analysis and guidance on rectification in the Ihya Ulumuddin. He devotes whole sections. So it's in 4 sections, as some of you may know. The first section is on the preliminary stages, if you like, to things, which is basically ibadat, worship. Right? That's what it is. Although there's beliefs in there, mainly worship, which is what we're going to be doing, but not thick worship, purification of the heart through worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second section, 40 books, second 11 to 20, are about the adat, or our habits. We talked about brotherhood, eating and drinking, traveling, marriage, and these kind of things, rights of parents, your social interaction and business transactions, all these kind of things. Not the legal rulings, not fiqh, like you study in a fiqh class, but how we should behave, morals, manners, etiquettes, spiritually develop ourselves through our relationships with others around us. Nurturing children is a very important section in there, which has been actually taken out and written into separate books. And so have other sections. You might find a book called Brotherhood in Islam by Imam Ghazali. It's actually a section taken out of Ihya Ulumuddin and made into a separate book, or just printed as a separate book. Imam Ghazali on marriage, and it's taken from his Ihya Ulumuddin. Because if it's 40 volumes, like us, and I give you here 40 volumes, will you read it? You probably will, mashallah. But will most people read 40 volumes? They probably give up after 5 pages. Maybe in the future, and never pick it up again. So it's good that we've got books like this that have taken out sections for us to read over and benefit from, inshallah ta'ala. The third section is on the muhlikat, or those negative characteristics. So the inner characteristics, which are evil traits, bad traits, negative characteristics. We mentioned of arrogance, of envy, of anger, hatred, etc. And Imam Ghazali discusses them and tells us how to purify ourselves and gives us guidance. And the last section of the last quarter, the last 10 books, 31 to 40, are about the good characteristics, such as we mentioned gratitude, thankfulness, hope and fear, detachment from this world, zuhud, to get the dunya out of our hearts, not to be attached, but to be detached, and not have this love of the world and love of praise and so forth, and humbleness. And he talks about various characteristics within these last 10 books, and he finishes with the final book on the book number 40 in the end of Ihya Ulumuddin with a similar. It's like an overall kind of cure or guidance, and it's very important to mention this. It's called the book on the remembrance of death and the hereafter. Why is it important to mention that? Imam Ghazali says this is the cure for many of our diseases. This is the way to improve ourselves. That remembering death and the afterlife and learning about that is what instills in us the passion, the energy, the know-how, and the desire to make that journey, to make that change. Because the more we learn about actual reality and what's happening in the future and how we're going to Allah, returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more we prepare for that. The more we think about it, the more we prepare. And the less we mention death and the afterlife and so forth, the less we prepare. So for Muslims, this is important to mention, death is not talked about to make our lives all full of doom and gloom. Right? It's not that. And it's a sad thing. It affects us and it's tough. It's talked about, and the afterlife is talked about to make or to help us build our lives, to be productive, because the more we realize the true purpose of our being here, the more we'll actually try and do the things that we should be doing and be productive and contribute to society and make ourselves, rectify ourselves. Because we know we're running out of time. Our capital is every moment we have in this life is our time. And the more we use it for good, the more we use it for self-improvement, helping others, the more return, our capital is our time, so the more return we'll get, the more we invest into our time. And the more we neglect our time or waste our time, the less returns we'll have. In that time, it could be negative returns, right? It could go the other way, which is we ask Allah to protect us from such an outcome, but we want to go forwards. So in the book, I don't know how the page numbering is in yours, but it says number 1, the prayer. What page number is that? 19. It's the same, alhamdulillah. Same book, then we just reprinted it. Page 19. The prayer. So that's the first part of the book itself. What we're going to be going through, inshallah ta'ala. The format of the classes is we arrive about 7ish, we start 7:05. Thank you for, it is a bit earlier than normal this class. We do know you're coming from work, it's a bit of a rush, right? Early, in and out, and straight here, mashallah. Thank you for attending. So we do hold out for 5 minutes before we start. We will try and start on time, let everyone arrive. And then we'll go for about 45 minutes to an hour with some time for Q&A at the end. We have to finish by 8 o'clock because there's another class here at 10:05 it starts. So we have to finish at 8 o'clock, and that's the schedule anyway. It's our class. More than that, I think I'll get tired and you wouldn't be listening, you'd be sleeping, or wondering. Your minds will be wondering. Hope they're not already. Hope you're here with us, right? Let's do some random trivia before we go into this. I've gone into this more than I ask questions. I've been doing quizzes and stuff, so I just love asking questions now. We're going to think of difficult questions because some of you are in other classes. You know all my questions now. So the question is, just anybody, please be hand up so we don't all shout out. And at home you can comment the answer if you like. Somebody will follow up on it, inshallah, hopefully. I've asked this before, I can't ask that again. So I was going to ask the question. I'll ask the question just to remind ourselves. Where was Imam Ghazali born? What's the name of the place Imam Ghazali was born? Anyone? Hands up. Your name first?
Khalil.
Khalil. Bismillah. What was the answer?
Tus.
It was Tus. Tus is a town in Persian, older than Persian, Khurasan, which was known as then. And he was from this town called Tus. And he's therefore known as a Tusi as well. Imam al-Ghazali, a Tusi, because that's the place he's from, the town you're from. You often get attributed Kufi, Makki, Madani, Misri, and so forth, Dimishqi. So that's the city he was from. Yes, but that wasn't the question. I thought that was easy, but only one hand went up. So that means you're shy, probably, to put your hands up. Let's make it, let's ask another question. Okay, let's do two difficult one. Let's make it relative to class. In which century after Hijrah was Imam Ghazali, did Imam Ghazali live in? So we lived from 200 to 300, 300 to 400, 700 to 800, 400 to 500, 500 to 600. Which area or which time? So we're in what year? So the first question, let's start, take a step back. What year are we in right now after Hijrah? Anybody know? Hands up. What year of Islamic calendar, date? It's 14, I'll tell you that. What's the second part?
41.
41? Are you sure? Yes, I'm just testing you there. It's 1441, alhamdulillah. Muharram Safar Rabiul Awwal. It'll be a thani now probably. But it's 1441, inshallah, alhamdulillah. So where was Imam Ghazali in this 1400 years that's gone by? of Islam, of the migration. So a bit longer than that in terms of Islam. But where's Imam Ghazali? What year? Go look at your books. Yes. It wasn't the 7th. No, it wasn't the 7th. You can look at your books. Sorry? Lower. Good one. Lower than 7th. So he wasn't from 600 to 700. That's 7th century AH. He was no higher. 5th, yes, 5th. He was from 400, so he was born in 450, middle of the 5th century after Hijrah, and he passed away in 504 or 505. Some books say 504, some say, reports say 505. He's about 54, 55 when he passed away, young in terms of age, yes. But he achieved a lot, and he was a great man. After his travels, he came back to his homeland, and he gave up the fame, he gave up the positions, and he went and taught privately or locally in his village, in his town. In Tucson, he passed away there, and he's buried in that part of the world, rahimahullah ta'ala. So what was the question? Yeah, that's enough questions. Let's start on the book, inshallah ta'ala. So the prayer, salah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I'm not going to read the book. There's not enough time to read every single word of the book. So I'm going to be jumping through the hadith and commentating on some of the hadith. So the first page is just the introduction, and the one thing to mention is the thing right at the bottom there, which is prayer is the pillar of religion. The Prophet said, "As-salatu imadud deen." Prayer is the pillar. Imad is a pillar that holds the building up. There's pillars of Islam, but the Prophet called salah, the prayer, the pillar of religion. Meaning this is what matters the most of all of the actions. Of course, faith itself comes first. But all of the actions we have, salah is the pillar of the religion. Without salah, you have no structure. You have no chance to build anything above. So you need to establish the prayer to establish anything before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And part of establishing the prayer is what we're going to be going through. Obviously, there's rules and actions. We will talk about them, how to derive the most benefit from them. But there's other elements, internally and externally, that we need to talk about. Number one, the merit of the call to prayer adhan. That's over the page. So the first hadith says there'll be a ridge of black musk, this area of black musk for people on the day of judgment, and they will have no fear. They will be in complete security, whilst others will be in difficulty, in awe, in fear of the reckoning of what's going on. And who are these three people given this ridge of black musk? They are the person who recited the Quran for the pleasure of Allah, the one who made the call to prayer, called people to prayer. And you could say it's the mu'adhin, but it could be anybody who calls to prayer as well. And number three, the person who, it says here, had hard living, life is not easy sometimes, but working to survive, or working to provide his or her family a living, etc., did not distract that person from their duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which can happen, which is kind of what we're here for today, in a sense that we need to learn to balance our lives of work and what's out there with our family and entertainment and enjoyment and everything. It's not haram, it's not wrong, but we need to balance that with our duties to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our families, duties to our families, or duties to Allah ultimately as well. So we need to have a balance. We need to spend time with family, we need to spend time with worship. And in that regard, I should mention there's a beautiful hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the book called Ash-Shama'il of Imam al-Tirmidhi. What's Ash-Shama'il? Anybody know? Imam al-Tirmidhi. Imam al-Tirmidhi is a great scholar. What's Ash-Shama'il? Anyone? Yes? Good. It's a description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his characteristics, his appearance, his clothing, his belongings, his food. It's all about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at a very personal level. A beautiful book of about 400 plus hadith, which we've gone through on various courses here as well. But we haven't for a while, so maybe we'll do something on that in the future, inshallah ta'ala. In that book, Imam Ghazali mentions a hadith where Sayyidina Ali reports his cousin and almost like an adopted son, like he lived with the Prophet from a very young age, and the Prophet looked after him like a father. He says that when the Prophet used to come home, he used to split his time into three parts. One for his family, one for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one for himself. And from the time he had for himself, he'd give back to the people, family or otherwise, right? So it teaches us balance, organization, being fair, being wise in how you distribute your time with others, and that's important. That's the sunnah of Prophet isn't merely a preference. this is okay, it's good, it's nice. It's actually a lifestyle or a guidance of how to do things properly and effectively and successfully. If we manage our time, and time management is a big thing within Islam, prayers in itself, time management, right? Then we will be more effective and more productive in what we do. Whereas if we haphazard and ad hoc and just things come and go, we'll get things done, but always on the last minute, always lacking that excellence and ihsan that we need to achieve within our worship, right? Within our lives. Prophet ﷺ said, Allah loves it when one of his slaves does an action, and it doesn't here mean worship means any action, so it could be writing, it could be speaking to somebody, it could be helping someone, it could be prayer. He does an action, and he does it with itqan, he does it with excellency, with skill, with proficiency. Allah loves that we do things in a good way. This is what I used to hear from our teachers, and this is what I've conveyed to others when they ask me, I'm studying this, I want to also do this. And they would always, and this is the advice I always give people, I think it's sound advice. Look, perfect and master a field. This is what Allah loves. Allah doesn't want you to be half-hearted here and then half-hearted there, do this, try. If you've got something you are passionate about and you can do well, do it with excellency. Become, the lead in that field. And that's what the Muslims did. They had, every now and then you'd find a great Muslim, architect, right? Sinan Pasha of the Ottoman Empire, great architect, right? You find a great Muslim, physician, right? Razi, for instance, Tabib al-Razi, the doctor, again his books are used, right? You find a great, optometrist, Ibn Haytham, right? And these, because they went to the peak, they worked hard and hard to master that particular area and focus on that. And it wasn't all in worship or in, Islamic. It means here any action, any field you're in, any area you're in, be proficient and do best in that. Even if it's a simple thing like cleaning something or making something, do anything. So it's general hadith, which scholars commentate on. And so this is something we need to do. We need to, when we do things, do them properly. Competence in a job isn't just towards the person you're doing it for. If you're doing manual work or something like that, or services, whether it's electronic or technological or otherwise, you're visiting or something, it's for Allah. When you are competent in your work and you do it well, Allah loves that. Right? And when you're not and you're negligent, and you might get away with it with your client or whoever you're working for, you might get paid, but Allah knows you were negligent, Allah knows you had shortcomings, Allah knows you were cheating in a sense, right? And that reduces the value of that work before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what Imam Ghazali wants to talk about. He prepares us for this in this work. That it's not about people, it's about your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do the good you're doing with that in mind. So that's the first study. And then the second one, we'll go over a few of these because there's not a big section on the call to prayer, but there's lots of hadith in the following sections. The hadith, everyone hears the call of the muadhin. So he mentions specifically the muadhin, even the jinn and the creation, and they'll bear witness for that person on the day of judgment. So the muadhin has a mighty rank, they will have special, there's many hadith about how they'll have illumination on their face on the day of judgment, how they'll be raised with slightly longer necks so they stand out above everyone else and be honoured in an honoring way. And really, what are they doing? Bring it back to you, because it's all about you today, right? They're calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hayya al-salah, hayya al-falah. Come to prayer, come to success. Come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So they're telling people to make that journey. You made that journey today. Right? You took your time out of your busy schedules. Somebody had to convince you, maybe, I know. Somebody like, oh, that person brought me. Yeah, alhamdulillah, thank them when you go home. Right? Because as we learn in the hadith, it's a beautiful hadith, that when you step out of your home or wherever you are and you make a journey to seek sacred knowledge, the angels spread their wings out for you. Think of that. The angels, you brought the angels today with you because they were coming with you on your journey here today. Alhamdulillah. Right? So the blessings, and the angels are in this gathering because the Prophet said, the angels come to the gatherings of learning and the remembrance of Allah, and they sit here and they are blessed with their mercy descends and sakina, tranquility descends, and rahmah encircles these kind of gatherings. And then the Prophet ﷺ said in the same hadith that the one who steps or treads on a path of seeking sacred knowledge, Allah then facilitates and makes the path to paradise easier for him or her. And so this journey you made today, this effort that you've taken out, is rewarded by Allah, is recognized by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and will benefit you ultimately on the day of judgment. Just like the muezzins call and people come, and there's rewards for people who come to prayer. There's rewards for you for making the effort to be here today. Then he mentions an ayah of the Quran where he gives the translation, which is good, you can read that. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. The end of the ayah. Which means, who speaks better than one who calls to Allah and acts righteously and says, I am one of the Muslims. It was said, this ayah is referring to the callers to prayer. But in general, no, it does. You look in the tafsir books, it means it's general. Anybody who calls to good and calls to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blessed, right? Who is better than him? It's a rhetorical question. This is one of the greatest things to do, is to call to good and call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he mentions some elements about prayer, which I think some of you may know, so we'll leave that. And then he says the dua, the supplication we make after the prayer, again something hopefully you know on the next page. And then he goes on to merits of the prescribed prayers at set times. So the prayers have times. Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. Surely prayer has been written, prescribed meaning made obligatory. So that he meaning prescribed means made obligatory. Mawquta, kitaban, obligatory. Mawquta, timed, i.e. set times, right? So there's times for prayers and the obligatory prayers, which are 5. What were they originally? How many do we get? 50, right? So the concept of prayer is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Imam Ghazali will touch on later, we're going to talk about the purpose of prayer and how we can improve our prayer. Here, at the moment, it's the praying 5 times a day, how that is a virtuous act. And the first hadith there talks about how if you just pray your prayers, you're guaranteed everything. If you establish and are regular in your prayers, it says here, if you read the hadith, that those who pray the 5 prayers, they are no worries, they are guaranteed, they will not have any worry on the day of judgment, and they'll be admitted to paradise for establishing the 5 daily prayers. And the concept here is that if you're praying 5 times a day, you surely and you will and you should be improving your character in other ways and your life in other ways. If you have the discipline to pray regularly and consistently 5 times a day, ablution, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praying to Him, calling upon Him, this will be the rectification process in itself, and you have no worries on the day of judgment. As the one who does not observe them and is lax in them and falls short in them, then he has no guarantee. That person has no guarantee. He or she may be punished, may be rewarded. The door's open to that, right? So guarantee yourself this mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by establishing the prayer. And then a famous hadith at the bottom of page 21, which is where the Prophet likened praying 5 times a day to washing oneself in a stream 5 times a day. And he asked the companions, would you see any filth or dirt on this person who washed themselves 5 times a day? And they said, no, Messenger of Allah, he'd be, spick and span clean, pure. And the Prophet then said, this is like the 5 daily prayers that a Muslim prays. They remove the sins and they remove all the bad and they purify the Muslim. So this is the virtue of the prayers and praying 5 times a day. Like I said, not read every hadith, we take too long.